And now we have reached the portion of Liberty Nation Radio which we entitle Talkin' Liberty, as we explore threats and promising developments regarding your individual liberty with LibertyNation.com legal affairs editor Scott Cosenza. Hello, Scott.
Hello, Tim.
Okay, let's talk about the Covington kids and young Mr. Sandman in particular. They're not taking the nasty things that were said about him and them in the media. They're not letting it just pass over them. They're taking legal action.
There were over 100 notices sent out by Mr. Sandman's attorneys this week to various publications and celebrities for their Twitter publications, indicating a sort of a spoilage notice, or do not destroy. If you're an attorney and you're going to sue a store for something that one of their employees did, you may say, hey, I'm going to sue you, so do not destroy the videotapes from December 25th, all right? Or I'm going to sue you, so make sure that you preserve them. So even in the course of, not actively trying to destroy them, but take affirmative steps to preserve this evidence. Those are the letters that went out. And I make that point, Tim, because it does cost a bit of money to sue someone. It can cost, many thousands of dollars in federal court to file a lawsuit. So if you're going to do 140 of those, that's no small
thing. Does he have a GoFundMe campaign to help his legal expenses?
I haven't seen one yet, but maybe that's next in the offing. But he will have to prove, and this is what I think it's an important story. So people can say something that's wrong. In other words, if you see a story on the news that says Nick Sandman taunted a Native American man, and we now know that that's not just not true, but it's a lie. It was calculated as a lie.
It's the opposite of the truth.
Yeah, absolutely right. So if you said that, though, and didn't know it was a lie, then you're not guilty of libel or slander. It's only if you knew or should have known that you're guilty. And so it's an uphill battle for these attorneys. I think that there are probably some media outlets and some people who have tweeted who do actually likely fall within the context of defamation, classically defined. And we'll see, they're probably going to say that because Sandman is a public figure or so public, he became what's called a limited purpose public figure. And so that therefore they should be held to the even higher standard of where they actually know that it's incorrect and published it anyway, which is almost impossible to establish. And so that's the battle that we see before us. And also Gavin McInnes, from one of the famed co-founders of Vice News, filed suit this week against the Southern Poverty Law Center, and for a defamation suit against the Southern Poverty Law Center. And they had him and his organizations listed on their, I guess it was, I don't know if it was like the terror watch list or the, that sort of a thing, domestic hate type groups.
Right.
And I think that his case is actually a fairly strong one. We'll see as it goes forward. I'll continue to report on it. But his case has actually been filed.
Bad news for drivers. Oh, my goodness. How many of us rely on the Waze app to warn us of when there are police checkpoints coming up? But the New York Police Department, is that New York State or New York City?
NYPD, Tim.
The New York City, NYPD.
They have a keen hatred for the liberty of the people.
And they are saying to Google that they need to stop revealing the location of police checkpoints on Google's Waze app, and who even knew that Waze was owned by Google. But Google Maps and Waze are owned by the same people, and they're being told to cease and desist from identifying police checkpoints. A threat to liberty, Scott?
You can send your copy of the Constitution to Acting Deputy Commissioner for Legal Matters Ann Prunty at One Police Plaza in New York City. Yes, it's Tim, it's a complete abridgment of freedom of speech. All this police checkpoint awareness is one person saying, I see a police checkpoint on First Avenue at whatever street, and then posting that online, and then them distributing that post to other people who can then read. Right, and then,
but Scott, this is going to make a serious.
It's going to make
It's going to make a serious dent in the income of the New York
for once.
City
it would
Police
be nice
Department.
to see one of these commissioners or police officers have to pay for their mistake instead of what they usually do is crushing the rights of the citizenry and then a long time later, after it's been litigated out, the city has to pay through the nose to compensate the people who have successfully sued for having their rights crushed, and then the taxpayers take it because they have to then fund the settlements. It's so that's what the NYPD's up to these days.
Now, we move south to the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, where the U.S. Attorney is suing to stop the first in the nation supervised drug injection site.
Tim, Philadelphia has a massive problem with heroin overdose deaths. In fact, it has it's the worst city in the country of its size. I think they had 1,200 about deaths last year. And some years ago in Vancouver, another North American city with a profound problem with overdose deaths of heroin, they did this safe injection site, which is sort of like a retail store where people go in. They don't buy heroin there, but they use the heroin that they have bought somewhere else there. And it's a place where these addicts can get access to social services. They can make sure that nobody's going to, use violence to try to steal their drugs, and also that they have reduced overdose deaths massively because they have the capacity to treat them right there in that central facility. So this was adopted in Philadelphia with the support of the mayor, the district attorney, who is in fact a progressive district attorney, unlike some other people who have claimed to be progressive district attorneys in the past. And unfortunately, U.S. Attorney William McSwain is trying to put the kibosh on this.
Okay, a federal judge has ordered prosecutors to release redacted copies of the search warrants that justified the raids on Michael Cohen, famously Donald Trump's fixer. Why was this done?
Well, a lot of media organizations sued to get the information released. We want to know what was the reason that justified these searches, and we'll get an affidavit of probable cause, which will lay out a lot of details and help sort of flesh out the story. The same reason, by the way, why the powers that be don't want this information released. It may tell us much information about the investigations into Mr. Cohen and then subsequently President Trump. So that's the reason why. But I think it's incumbent on the authorities to release this information. The judge has given them until, I think, the end of the month to produce a redacted copy, so it won't be without redactions. There are certain classified and other information that won't appear on them, but we have the potential to learn a great deal, Tim. I think this is sort of kind of like a huge story that's just blooming right now. It could be a great deal of information to be released at the end of the month on the Mueller case, because we'll learn potentially why they were able to get that warrant to get into. Now, let's recall, you said fixer, but just so everybody remembers, it was his attorney. He was the president, before he was president, he was Donald Trump's attorney. So
one of them.
So it was,
but he was used primarily as a fixer.
I don't want you to soft sell the attorney-client relationship, though. That's what I'm pressing on, and it is an extraordinary act for police to search an attorney's office for business records.
Meanwhile, few people in the country, and almost no politicians except other ones in his own state, is more embattled than Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, who was thought to probably resign after all the revelations about the KKK hood and the blackface and all the rest of it. But he found enough time to sign a bill this week authorizing $750 million in cash subsidies to Amazon.
I just think it's gross that the most profitable and successful company the world's ever known, Tim, is being given this giant subsidy supported by Republicans and Democrats alike. And the way they do it is even more vulgar. They don't have the decency to just say, we'll give it to Amazon. They create this bill that's drafted only to apply to Amazon. So it says, if you have a technology company and you spend billions of dollars in this zip code by these years and create X number of jobs in this place, then you're entitled to these $500 million and then another $250. So it's a giveaway to a private company. And I think that when the legislators and the governor thinks that they know how to pick winners and losers in the marketplace, it's time for them to get into the capital markets and get out of legislating and governing. It's an entirely different thing, and that's not what we put them there for or what they're qualified to do.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Tim.
This program, Liberty Nation Radio and LibertyNation.com's own podcast, The Uprising, with me and Scott and Lisa K. Donner, are available to you on demand at LibertyNation.com and from fine podcast providers everywhere. So that is it for this week, but we'll be back at you next week, same time, same station. Till then, this is Tim Donner saying stand up for liberty. And we'll see you next time on Liberty Nation Radio.